Hello YouTube vintage stereo collectors and Marantz collectors and listeners. I'm just going to do a wrap-up review on this 2215B. B is for best, I think. This is one of their best products. And no, it's not a monster receiver. It's not at the high end of the scale. It's at the low end of the model scale. But when these were made, and very similar with Sensuis of the era, Kenwoods of the era, Yamahas of the era, the lower models were often, once you took the faceplate off and you looked at where the cutouts were and stuff, you realized it was the chassis for higher models as well. Of course, higher models had more power, more features, an extra tape monitor, maybe an extra phono. What I like about these is there were many more of these sold in this model range. And there's still quite a few survivors. And, well, what is it that's so appealing? I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10 as far as receivers go. And, first of all, I don't give anything a 10 out of 10. But let's give it a 9 out of 10. What do I like about it? Great layout. Knobs are the right size. Detented bass and treble in a lower priced receiver, 2 sets of speakers, very simple controls, the central balance, tape monitor, loudness, which you never need. The nice thing about this design in particular, the single-ended power supply, the capacitor coupled outputs, have a certain, the acoustic flavor, let's put it that way, is a little more pronounced low end. And which sounds good, actually. It's maybe something just built into us. You don't need the loud control. At low volumes, this unit will reproduce bass frequency. And I'm talking about the lower things, you know, that a subwoofer, almost in the subwoofer territory. That's how well these work. And I listened to them on a pair of Energy C5 floor monitors. And the bass comes right through on it and listening at very low volume. And what are some of the other neat things about it? Well, first of all, it's a big box, big metal box. And the layout inside, you've got the power amp here, transformer here. You've got the actual power board here, the phono board here, the tuner board here. Flip it over, you can get at every connection, every solder joint in the entire unit. Really good serviceability, good Alps switch gear. I'm just going to I'll show you the back. I like the metal wood grain. Some of them came in a real wood sleeve, that's even a bonus. Couple neat things, it actually has an AM antenna. I don't really listen to AM on units like this, but it actually has a fairly decent AM radio in it. These speaker connectors are good for bare wire ends, and they really clamp on them. I prefer to use banana connectors, but I wouldn't change these. These actually have survived. Sometimes they get banged and broken off, but not on this one. It has not that many inputs. It depends. If you have multiple tuners and digital inputs, things like that, CD player, DVD player, it's a little short on inputs, but this was also an entry-level receiver. As the FM quad output, you could actually use this if you want to. If you have a stereo multiplexer, even one of the tube ones like a Heathkit or a Dynaco, you could actually run this output into it and then have a tube stereo unit with a little bit of a tube flavor in the sound. It's not, most people never use that. When these were designed, they're on the precipice of the quad movement. It didn't last that long, but and this Marantz is an actual made in Japan Marantz. Not many marks on this one either. It's really stood up. I think if I were to compare this to similar units, like the Yamaha CR66, which I did a couple months ago, same year range. It was built in 77. This is built in 76. The Yamaha, I think, has its own signature sound, little crisper highs, little different sound, and the Yamaha seemed gutsier when you cranked it up. But the Yamaha has very fussy, smaller knobs and switches. These are great knobs for when you get up in the middle of the night in a dark room and the only thing that's on is the stereo, and you're like, I'm going to go to the tape monitor. Boom. Easy to get at. The switches and everything, it's nicely made. So I rate this highly for build quality and for listenability. And you know, when I started in stereo years ago and got out of college, well, I did high school electronics and college, everything was about the specs. The lowest distortion specs, class A, B design versus what, they were, even back then, we're talking about class H. And they say, well, a capacitor coupled output, it introduces phase distortion. It's direct coupled is better. Quasi-complementary isn't as good as full complementary. And you know what? Years down the road, and we're talking quite a few years now, I really realize it's all about the listening. The specs in many ways don't mean that much. The fact that this is a 15 watt amp and something else is an 80 watt amp, where I listen and what I listen to and how I listen, I will never use the full output of either. What I'm interested in is the listening experience. And there are some things about certain designs that just sound better. And it goes against what the specs say, and even what the stereo critics might say. It's really the one axiom. Take this with you after the video, okay? My photography teacher used to say, if it looks good, it is good. All right? My electronics teacher used to say, if it sounds good, it is good. And that's the thing here. These sound good, they are good. Thanks for watching and listening.